Hello there, one and all. Welcome to Slapendipity Hobos of Happy Slappy Town. I am Eric, who you may call Eric, and with me I have Gibby, who you may call Devon.
Hello, everyone. Wait, let's hype ourselves up. We're going to have a great show today.
We're gonna have a great show. We're gonna have lots to talk about, and it's gonna be filled with confetti.
I'm going to talk about Zoomer brain rot. I'm going to talk about television shows. I'm going to talk about feet. It's going to be a good episode.
I don't. Which one would you like to start with? Personally, I have more of a curiosity for the feet one because it just sounds the most cringe.
Out of those three options, that one sounds the most cringe.
Yes.
Okay, well, let me tell you about feet. You see, I have some.
Okay.
Okay, so when I go to work, right, we have like a, not a uniform, we have a dress code. And you got to wear black socks. So a couple years ago, I went out and I bought a bunch of packs of black socks. I guess that I had previously just kind of assumed that, I don't know, like socks. If you know what, you know white socks that have like the gray toesies and the
Oh
gray
yeah.
heelies. You know how like sometimes those are like there's a left sock and a right sock, and you can tell by the design.
No, but let's say I do.
So like the tips of the toesies for those kind of socks, sometimes like where your big toe is supposed to go, that side, the gray at the top where the toes are, is thicker. Where your pinky goes, it's not as thick, and it kind of like the sock is made to conform to the contours of your feet because it on one side it curves out and the other side it curves in. Well,
Okay.
these socks that I bought, these black socks, dress socks, I guess that they are like there is a left sock and there is a right sock, and I've just never use them that way. I just put on a sock, just like as you were just kind of stating that you just kind of put on socks. You don't have a left sock or a right sock.
Right.
Yeah, so it's just been like I'm almost done with my job. I'm going to be leaving soon, and every single day, one of my feet is uncomfortable because I have on the wrong sock, and it's just for the last 5 years I've just never fixed this problem. It's
Hmm.
bothered me almost every day for 5 years, and I've never sat down and been like, I'm gonna organize my sock by left and right because it just never felt worth it. But looking back on all of the discomfort it caused, it probably would have been worth it.
Yeah, it sounds like it would have been worth it. It was a problem for 5 years. That's the part that gets me.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that were like minor inconveniences that I just randomly never solved until I did. So like I have a phone charger in my car. Do you have a phone charger in your car?
Yeah.
So I had someone else drive me somewhere on a road trip. We talked about this. It was the concert day where we got the flat tire. And I
Right.
took my charger out of my car to put into his car. And then I kind of forgot it there. And the next day he brought it back to me. And basically, for about a month, I just kind of never put it back in my car. And every single time I would sit down in my car, I would go to plug my phone in and I wouldn't be there. And I'd go, oh man, I left my charger in my bedroom. I should definitely put that in my car. And I just never did.
Hmm.
Or another thing is like at work, like whenever I get chapped lips at work, I'd be like, wow, I sure do wish that I had chapstick here in the office. And then I just like one day I brought some in and now I do have it in there. But just like little annoyances that persist for a long period of time because you don't do something simple like bringing chapstick to work or putting your phone charger in your car or organizing your sock by left foot, right foot. I don't know. It's kind of like the cleaning your room phenomenon. Like every day I walk in my bedroom and it's dirty, and I go, "Wow, it sure is annoying that my bedroom's dirty," and then I do nothing about it.
Hmm. Hmm. You could you could clean it a little.
Well, yeah, and then like, whenever I have time off of work and I get the energy to and I'm not distracted and I clean my room and I go, "Wow, this is amazing." And then I learn nothing from this experience.
Mm-mm. I will say I think in kind of a similar boat where like I'll be like, wow, my room's a little cluttered, little I should clean up some space or I should make room or whatever. And then sometimes I do it, but sometimes it'll just be like midnight, and I'll just be like, it's a great time to clean, and I'll just start cleaning.
Oh my
And I'm like,
gosh.
what happened? Why am I doing this now?
One of the things I'm looking forward to so much from being self-employed, definitely not unemployed, as I'll be in a few weeks, is that I'll be able to work when I'm motivated to work. Like last
Mm,
night, I worked until I was doing YouTube stuff until about 2 in the morning, and like I could have kept it going. I wasn't tired at all. I was divinely inspired, and I just felt like my creative juices were flowing. I was in the flow zone. I was in the end zone of the flowing, and I felt like I could just keep going. But I was like, no, I need to go to bed now because I have to wake up early tomorrow for like a doctor's appointment. That's today. Today is tomorrow.
mm.
And I feel that way when it comes to my job all the time, where I'm like, I'm in a position right now where I could clean my whole house, or I could write a whole chapter of my book, or I could finish editing this YouTube video. But I can't, quote unquote, can't because I have to get up early for work tomorrow. Because when I go to my day job, it's based on the time of day. Whereas when I'm doing my creative job, it's based on my own clock. And so kind of
Hmm.
like how you
Hmm.
just said that you felt inspired to clean your room after midnight. It's like, yeah, one day I'll be able to do that. That'll be awesome.
It could be. I would say like keeping to a schedule, whatever that schedule is, but like keeping to one would still be important because otherwise you just get funky sleep schedules, and now we're old, and but not really.
See, I
And
disagree. I disagree with that. I think you
late
gotta
20s is
listen.
the new 18.
You gotta listen to your body. If you're not tired, you don't need to go to sleep. If you are tired, you should go to sleep. You don't need to go on
Well,
this day night cycle. It's the same thing with eating. It's like, you know what's really, really bad for you is having breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the same time every day. You know what's good for you is you eat when you're hungry, and then you'll eat less, and then you'll eat gooder stuff, and then you'll get all your vitamins.
but the point of the schedule is that your body just acclimates to those things, and then it's like, yeah, like I understand the point going back all natural and caveman times, etc. But like, if you just go to sleep randomly, that could also, not randomly, but sleep when your body tells you to sleep. But then that could be random because maybe one day you go to bed at 2 a.m., so then you don't wake up until 10 a.m. And then maybe it's a lazy day or you take a nap, so then you don't go to bed until 4 a.m. because you took a nap earlier. Then you're waking up at noon, and that just keeps going. And then you're like up at 10 a.m.
Good. There's this thing I read. I think this must have been over 10 years ago. This was like when we were in high school, and they did this test where this guy was basically in an area where there was no sunlight, right? Like imagine you're in a cave for a month. So there's no light, there's nothing to tell you what's going on outside. You don't know what time of day it is, and there's no timekeeping, right? You don't know when it's 2 p.m., you don't know when it's 1 a.m. And it
Mm-hmm.
was like, okay, so how does this individual with absolutely no concept of time behave? And the answer is that he was typically on a sleep for you know how like we sleep for 8 hours and we're awake for 16 hours.
Yeah.
It was basically double that. It was sleep for 16 hours, awake for 32 hours. He was treating every 2 days like it was one day.
Mm.
And so it seemed like when there was no sunlight factor, when there was no knowing what time of day it was or how long you'd been awake, people typically, the result was you sleep for 16 hours, you're awake for 32 hours.
I mean, I don't super jive with that because A, that's one person. That's the smallest sample size in the world. But then two, I mean, I guess you can try to draw whatever conclusions, but like, he exists without the sun. We exist with the sun more times than not, unless you're this guy.
Well, yeah, the point of the story is to go live in a cave.
No, but just live how we live. If you live in the cave, you won't have a computer.
You could get that's what the internet's for. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this, other than I think that when it comes to sleeps, you should get good sleep.
Well, sure. I think how you get good sleep is also important. So much of the like human science is so new and therefore all kind of baloney. The
Yeah,
amount of like go on.
okay, I was talking yesterday to my boss and one of our friends at work because he's a smoker, lifelong smoker, and he's going to get his lungs looked at tomorrow or today,
Mm.
because today is tomorrow. So he was talking to us about like, oh yeah, I need to check my lungs, and our friend is like, yeah, like dude, your lungs are probably really really bad, like pictures of smokers' lungs if you've been doing it for your whole life, and he's like, what is a smoker's lung? And she's like, it's that thing that you look at in health class when like your lungs are completely shriveled up and they're black and covered in tar. Like if you're a pack-a-day smoker for 40 years, your lungs are going to look terrible. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Now, this man's only like 55. This is not an old man. This kid would have been in high school in like the 80s. So we showed him pictures of smokers' lungs, compared to normal lungs. And again, they're all shriveled and it looks like a cracked walnut and it's covered in tar. He's like, my lungs look like that? And we're like, yeah, dude. How do you not know that? He's like, oh, I don't know.
Hmm.
And I was like, we've been talking about getting him like a vape for a while because my mother was able to quit smoking by using a vape. And I'm like, you can use this and you can have nicotine in it, so it can help you with that. But then over time, you can dwindle down the amount of nicotine that's inside it. So, it gets all the tar out of your lungs. Or it doesn't get it out of your lungs. It's just you stop breathing in tar, and then over time, you can get rid of the nicotine as well. And then our friend is like, well, yeah, but like it takes basically an entire lifetime or an entire generation for us to really understand the effects of anything on the human body, right? Like we didn't know in the 60s that smoking for your entire life would get you tar in your lungs. It wasn't until the first person who was a pack-a-day smoker for their whole life died that we were able to see the ramifications. And so it's not going to be for another 60 years until the people who are growing up now and hitting their vape every single day dies that we see what it actually did to their body. And I'm like, wow,
Mm.
that is a very good insight, and that is actually kind of important to think about whenever you see these new medications. Like, what's the weight loss one? Ozempic. That's
Yeah, it's supposed to be for diabetes, I
yeah,
think.
but then like it works, like it makes you not hungry or something. It's like yeah, and
Yeah, it suppresses your appetite.
any new medication or even any like chemical that we're putting in food, right? Like there's so many things where like, oh, this red dye, it turns out that it causes cancer, right? Until you have the entire planet or the whole population using a chemical for an extended period of time, and then after they die, you can study them. We don't know what it does. Like, yeah, that's technically science, but everyone is the guinea pig. And so I just thought that was a really really good insight.
Yeah.
And don't vape, kids. Don't start vaping. You're not cool. It's not cool to Juul.
Yeah.
Take
It's
it take
very
it from us, single white podcasters.
yes, yes. The most informed people.
No, I was going with the most cool people. We're cool.
Oh
We're
yes,
definitely
but
cool.
I'm hip and with it, especially with that Zoomer brain rot.
Speaking of Zoomer brain rot,
Skibidi.
so Skibbity, yes. So I experienced a couple Zoomer brain rots this past week. I was at work and we had to change the light bulb in one of the projectors. I work at a movie theater. Cross it off your bingo cards. So I work in a movie theater and I had to go and check to make sure that the movie was going to start after we changed the light bulb. And so I'm in there and I'm waiting and I'm waiting. It's that little pre-show thing where the lady is like, "Hey guys, welcome to the movie quiz show. What's your go to movie.com for movies?" And then it'll be like, "When Brad Pitt was 12, he said to himself, I'm going to be an actor." And then he was an actor. Right? It just kind of like has this little pre-show recording. And then that ends and then the lights start dimming and then the movie's supposed to start and we're all holding our breath to make sure that the projector actually works. And the moment the pre-show ends and the lights start to dim for the movie to start, or for the trailers to start, I guess. But the moment the lights dim, this kid in the background just excitedly yells out, "Skibbity!" As in like an exclamation of surprise and joy that now the movie's gonna start.
I've never heard it in that context.
No, there's a 12-year-old and they're the ones who make the context.
They are, yeah.
The other brain rot was I was watching Joker 2, and I was sitting next to, I think he's like 18 or 19, so he should definitely know better. Like, yeah, he's a Zoomer, but this is just annoying at that age. You know, you're not the 12-year-old yelling skibbity. You're just like sitting there bothering people. So I was watching Joker 2, and every time that the Joker would talk to Harley Quinn, they would be like a little flirty, you know?
Sure.
And so every single time like they had an interaction that ended with, Harley Quinn seductively biting her lip at how cool the Joker is. And I
He
say that
just
very
goes, W Riz, man.
yes. No, like actually. You go like, "That's Riz, Riz." Your Joker would be like, they start singing like, put on a happy face or whatever's in the trailer, and he just goes, "Yo, that's so Riz, man." And I'm like, it's one thing to be like disruptive during a movie. It's another thing to like joke around or whatever. But when your joke is, but I don't know, I don't know. Like it's not even a joke. He's just saying Riz.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I don't I am at a loss for words.
I mean, I guess in the way that the 12-year-old used Skibbity as an exclamation of joy or surprise, the 18-year-old is using Riz in a similar context, right? Because if we place ourselves in this scenario, right? Like when we were younger and we're watching what did we watch in a movie
Iron
theater?
Man.
When we watched Iron Man and Tony Stark makes a joke at Pepper and she's like, "Oh, you," but then she like smiles back and is like, I'm actually okay with what you did though. We'd be like, "Whoa."
We'd say, "Whoa,
You know,
he's got swag." That's what we would have said.
I mean, I wouldn't have said that. Goodness.
You wouldn't have because you weren't cool, but that's what all the cool kids were saying. You got swag.
You'd be like, "Wow, look how charming he is."
No, he's got swag.
We would just use more traditional words.
No, we definitely said swag.
I don't believe you said swag.
Oh, I mean, me and our friends would say it very ironically to make fun of these people. The same way that I'm sure that the kid I was sitting next to was saying Riz ironically. But, like, swag is short for swagger, meaning, like, a confident amount of charisma, which is literally what Riz means. Like, it's the exact same word. It's the same thing. And when I was in high school, kids would just, like, use swag as a suffix on, like, literally anything. Like, teacher's got teacher swag. Or, your backpack is so swag. Like, it's the same thing that's going on right now. This quote-unquote brain rot is nothing new. It's just different words.
Yeah, that's it. So, I know if he was, like, yelling it in the theater, or if he was at, like, a speaking volume, I'd be so annoyed with that.
No, he was yelling it.
Yo, that was Riz. I'd be like, shut up. I'm watching a movie.
Definitely yelling. That's Riz, dude. Like talking to the
Rude.
Joker. Yep.
If he was just under his breath, like, "Yeah, that was Riz," that's fine. Whatever. I don't care. You're in a theater. You're sharing the space with 30 other people.
No.
Shut your mouth.
This was the staff screening.
I don't care.
There's only 7 of us, and we all work together.
All the more reason to be quiet and not be disruptive, because if you mess up, coworkers will hate you.
Speaking of interesting coworker stories.
Speaking of,
so I get to work, and I'm the PM shift, so I get in, and the building is all hustle and bustle. There's people moving around. It's the middle of the day. People's doing stuff. There's work going on. So we have one of our employees is on break, and he's sitting at a table eating his bag lunch. And then 2 of our friends are at another area, and they're just kind of chit-chatting, because, like, it's really slow. There's nothing going on, so they're talking. Now, right before I went to work that day, literally, like, I was watching YouTube on my way to, like, getting dressed, and then going and driving. Obviously not watching YouTube while I'm driving, but, like, I listen to it over my car stereo. And a new episode of Game Theory came out, and it was talking about Five Nights at Freddy's. And the thumbnail for one of my videos is in the background, like it's actually shown on screen. So like, okay, I am shown on screen in this Game Theory video. That is so cool. Oh my god, I made it.
You did it.
So like, I get to work and I'm all excited. And I took a screenshot of this and I sent it to like our little group chat, and I posted on Twitter, and I was gonna go tell our friends. And I walk in the door, and one of our friends yells to me from across the lobby. He's like, "Devon, is FNAF 2 gonna be a prequel, like the movie?" And I'm like, hold on, and I have to go to the office, and I have to like put my coat away, and I grab like a water bottle, and I fill up the water bottle, and then I come out to like go talk to them. And he says it again. And he's like, "Hey, is FNAF 2 going to be a prequel?" And I'm like, "Well, FNAF 2 the game was a prequel, but the movies aren't following the story of the game." And then like he cuts me off, and he's like, "I thought the movies were following the story of the game." And I said, "No, they're absolutely not." And then I explained how, based on casting information, we know that the characters from the first movie are going to be in the second movie. So even if there's lots of flashbacks, it's definitely not going to be a prequel. It's not going to be a prequel to with it. The game was a prequel. And I'm explaining all of this, and then I'm like, "Oh, and look at this." And I pull out my phone and I show them the picture of me on Game Theory. And they're like, "Wow, that's neat." And then, one of our friends walks away because she's a manager and she has to go do something. And so then I'm just sitting there with her other buddy, and he turns to the employee who's having his break food. And he's like, "See, I told you that Devon knows a lot about FNAF. You didn't believe me." And I look at my friend, and then I look at the employee, and I look back at my friend, and I'm like, why would he believe you? Why would he assume I know anything about this? I'm his manager. I'm like an old man. Why would I know something about the Scare Bear game? And the kid at the other table's like, "Yeah, does he look like someone who would know about FNAF?" And I'm like, "No, I don't." And then, I'm talking to my buddy later, and I'm like, how did it even come up? And he goes, "Well, when I yelled at you from across the lobby asking you about the movie, the employee at the table next to us is like, 'Why would you ask Devon about the FNAF movie?'" And then our friend just offhandedly goes like, "Oh, Devon has a YouTube channel where he talks about Five Nights at Freddy's." And then 5 seconds later, I walk up and I'm like, "Hey guys, I'm on Game Theory today." So I'm just imagining from the perspective of my employee, who's just like, sitting there going about his day, finds out that his boss is obsessed with Scare Bear game, and then, is in the background of a Game Theory video that morning. And I can imagine his mind being confused.
Yeah, I would like to imagine he just went, huh, and then just continued eating. But yeah, people live multifaceted lives with complexities, and who knows what they know or do.
Yeah, you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. Like, I'm pretty sure 99% of people, if they met me just out and about, or they looked at me, they saw me, or they worked with me, and they like knew me in a professional manner, they probably would not guess what the left wall of my office is covered with.
Did Pokemon?
No, the left wall of my office, Eric. I am a fat nerd who grew up in the 90s. Of course I like Pokemon.
Legos?
No.
I remember what used to be there, but no,
that's exactly what's there. It is covered. Every single inch of this wall is covered with Taylor Swift memorabilia.
Yeah.
Posters and bracelets and albums, framed albums, sweatshirt from the tour, shadow boxes. It's literally all just Taylor Swift stuff. And I don't think most people would know that about me if they just saw me.
No, probably not.
All right, well...
I don't think most people would know that for anyone, though. Go up to a stranger on the street and be like, "What's on the walls in your house?"
Well, no, it's more that, like, if you look at me and
knowing
how big of a Swiftie I am. Like, that's the confusing part. Let's talk about judging books by their covers. Okay. Speed dating.
Speed dating. We did it.
You did it.
You didn't do it. I did it.
Yeah, and then you had a follow-up date, I believe.
Yeah.
How'd that go?
It was okay. It was awkward, but it wasn't awkward for the reasons that you're thinking.
Okay. I am thinking reasons it might be awkward, but if I'm wrong, you can correct me.
Okay. I arrive at the bowling alley that we agree to bowl at. I get there early. I go inside and I go, wow, there's a lot of middle-aged people here. Go to the bathroom, come out. And I was like, well, since I'm here early, wouldn't that be funny if I was like, she came here and I was like, we already have a lane and stuff. So I go up to the counter, and as I'm walking to it, I'm like, wow, there's a lot of people here. And I approach the counter, and I'm like, hello, do you have any bowling lanes open? I would like one bowl, please. And the nice man goes, sorry. It's a bowling league night. There are no lanes open. It's basically closed for the public. And I said, oh, okay, thank you. And neither of us did our research on that. So I just wait a bit outside. And I was expecting my date, as you do. And she was like blonde hair and, like average height, like, I don't know, 5'6" or something. And that's who I'm like keeping my eyes out for. And I'm like, okay, not seeing it. And I see this woman approaching me / the bowling alley. And she's this black-haired 5'2" woman. And I'm like, why does she look familiar? She's from the speed dating. And I pull out my phone, go to the emails, click on the picture of her, and I'm like, oh, this is my date. I didn't think this was my date.
So it's a different girl than the one you were expecting.
Yes, I must have mixed up the notes I took on the speed dating with the names of people, or at least these two people, right? I was like, I took down the notes for Grace, but then I wrote them in Jane's like column or whatever.
Oh no.
And so this woman comes up and I'm like, hi, and I say nothing. We're like, oh, hi, like, how's it going, blah blah blah. And I was like, hey, like, we kind of have to figure out something else to do for our date because the bowling alley is basically closed. There's a league event and all of the lanes are taken. And she goes, oh no. And we're just kind of like, what do we do? And then there's like a chain diner right next door, so we're like, screw it, we'll go into there. So we go into this diner, we sit down, we like place our orders, we start talking, and all the little things, whatever. And the waitress like keeps coming to our table. Like there's not many people in it at all. I'm like, oh, okay, she's just like bored, I guess, and is just like trying to get us is just waiting on us extra. And so like we finish our meals and she's like, hey, do you guys...
So you're like on a first date trying to have conversations, you keep getting interrupted by the waitress.
I wouldn't say keep getting interrupted. Like when we had our food, she was very much like, we didn't see her until my plate was done and she took it away.
Okay.
It wasn't like keep interrupted, but it was just like a few more times than usual. Like when I go out to eat, our waitress / waiter comes to my table, I don't know, like 4 times, right? They like get your drink order, your food order, they check in on you for the food bite test, and then they come back when you're done. Maybe they come back again if there's like a lot of you and they can't take all the plates at once. And then if you get dessert or not. So so if they normally come around like to your table 4 times, she came around to our table like 6 times, 7 times. And most of it was towards the end because she was like, "Hey, do you guys want dessert?" And we were like, "Oh, like, can we look at the menu?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, it's, right there." And I was like, oh, "Okay, cool." And then we didn't pick up the dessert menu. And then within like 5 minutes, she was like, "Hey, so like dessert?" And we were like, "Oh, sorry, we still didn't look at it." And she's like, "Okay, no worries, no worries." And then a man approaches our table wearing an apron. And I'm like, "Oh no, he's a cook." And he goes, "Hey, did you guys want dessert? Like, it's cool if you do, but like, I'm closing up the kitchen because, we're closing, and like, not a problem if you do want dessert, but like, I need to know." And so me and my date just kind of like, as he was talking, made eye contact, and we were just like, agreed, and we were like, "No, we don't need dessert, it's fine." And he's like, "Okay, cool." And then he leaves. And then I'm like, "Wait, what do you mean you're closing?" And I like pull out my phone and like go on to their Google Maps thing to find them. And sure enough, right, our date started at 6:30. The diner closes at 7:30.
The diner closes at 7:30 on a Wednesday.
Yes.
That's pretty crazy.
To me, that's so, like, the dinner rush. I mean, there was no one there, but like traditionally, a dinner rush goes until like 8.
Yeah, and we're in the land of the diner, the 24-hour diner. We're in New Jersey. Like, that shocks me.
Yeah, me and my date were both like, "What? This is insane." But like, not gonna make any problems about it. Just like, this is weird and baffling. So we like pay, leave, and then it's 7:30, and I'm just like, I don't know what we do. Like, do you just want to walk around the strip mall? Because we're right next to the highway. It's not like there's a park we could go to. There's no, like, all of the buildings are closing or closed. The bowling alley is taken up, and I'm just like, where are we? So we like walk around and talk a little bit more, and then that was that. It was like, "Oh, had a good time, get home safe, blah blah blah," and then we both did.
Well, what kind of, obviously, not the best first date scenario to find yourself in. But like, what kind of stuff did you talk about? Like, you only knew each other from like 3 minutes of speaking to one another, and then an email that you sent back and forth. So like, what did you talk about?
Jobs, hobbies,
Okay, so like when you said
seasons.
I'm a podcaster who reads manga all day, was she just like, did she look at you the way that Harley Quinn looked at Joker, bite her lip,
No,
and was it
no,
Riz? Okay, so
no.
what happened?
No, she was just kind of like, "Oh, without I don't know, very neutral." I also didn't quite tell her that.
I wouldn't expect you to, but like that's the point, right? Like, okay, I'm not expecting you to tell her that you have a podcast that has like 10 subscribers on it on like a date or anything. Like, I'm sure there's plenty of people in my life who like don't even know I'm doing this. Um, but yeah, like, okay, so you said you talk about jobs and hobbies. Well, you don't currently have a job, and
Whoa,
you don't currently have a job that's not this podcast, which is the point.
whoa.
So besides bouldering, which is okay, that's an attractive, that's a rizzy hobby, that's a swag hobby. What did you talk about? Did you talk about video games? Did you talk about?
I mean, a little bit. I mean, we also talked about theater quite a bit because she does
Mm,
theater, and I used to do theater.
true.
So we talked about that a little bit and like what how she still does it and stuff. Because I did not have a great time when I did it. It was okay, but I not enough to like pursue it. We also talked about like being siblings because she is the oldest and I am the youngest. So just like, oh, don't you, I bet your sister did this to you. And she was like, yes, yeah. And I was like, yeah, that's the younger sibling trick.
What's the younger
Um,
sibling trick? As a middle
whatever.
child, I need both. I need both perspectives.
Like fake crying.
Oh.
It's pretty useful. I mean, it stops working after a certain ages, but
Mhm.
or like, or from her end, it didn't affect her as much, but like holding back your strength and like what happens when you fail to do that and injure your sibling.
That's true. One time I accidentally slapped my little brother in the face, but like too hard, and like my mother was literally watching, and I immediately was like, "Oh no." And then my mom tried to like stop him from retaliating and was like, "Oh my God, that was so clearly an accident. Like I was just trying to swat him away, and I accidentally made contact with the side of his face at full force and just slap him." And my mom was just immediately was like, "He didn't mean to do that. Don't, like, please don't fight back and turn this into a whole thing." And then my little brother stomps away and he slaps one of my Lego sets off my shelf, and it shatters to the floor. And I'm like,
Yeah,
I feel so bad that I just punched him in the face. This is acceptable, I guess.
lols. Me and my brother never had such. I don't know. Like, that wasn't exactly civil, but it was very like well controlled. Like, if we hit each other, it was always intended.
Well, I mean, yeah, like we beat each other up all the time, but like this
Yeah.
was, yeah, I don't know.
But even if it was like on accident or whatever, one of us would just commit and be like, you know what? No, actually, screw you. But yeah, we talked about stuff like that. The seasons. The conversations were also a little. Yeah. I think to a certain point the awkward, like we both noticed the awkwardness because I was on a date with quote unquote the wrong person. The bowling date we were supposed to have didn't happen, and then the dinner date we were supposed to have got cut short. Um, so I was just like, what? What?
there's an episode of How I Met Your Mother where the character Barney is on a date and things just keep going wrong, and like his quote throughout the episode is, "I can turn it around. I can turn this around."
Mm,
And so as you're telling me this story, I just keep imagining Barney yelling like I can salvage it. I can turn this around. Bowling alley doesn't have any lanes open, restaurants closing, there's nothing to do, it's the wrong girl. Like I can turn this around.
yeah. But you gotta be polite about it. Also, my commute was longer than my date, so
No. I have a question about seasons.
okay.
And by I have a question, I mean Sophie writes in with a question. She says, "Hi guys, what's up? Now that we're in autumn, it's September at the time of writing this. Are there any mini traditions of your own slash changes to your routine that you'd like to share? I hope you're both well, Sophie." With four E's, with many E's.
Hi, Sophie, with four E's with many E's, writing in September. Um, like I guess I wouldn't call them traditions, but like I more reasonably drink hot chocolate because it's colder out, so that's my like hot drink of choice. Tea is okay. Coffee is disgusting. Uh,
I've
or
never
like
been
I'll
a I've,
take
I've never been a hot drinker person. Like I've had hot chocolate. I like hot chocolate, but it's not like, oh man, it's time to drink some hot chocolate. I've
well,
never been like that.
I'm not like, ooh, it's autumn, time to drink hot chocolate, but just as it's colder, I'm like, I could go for some hot chocolate. And then I just have that thought more often.
I woke up this morning and I was like
Mm-hmm.
cold. I have a fan that I keep on in my room, and I'm like, okay, today is kind of like the boundary day, where it's
Mm,
probably just going to keep getting colder and it's going to get to the point where I'm not going to have my fan on, and today is like pushing it a little.
mm. Yeah. Yeah, the fans kind of have to turn off now. Hopefully. Um, I take baths more as well. Again,
Oh.
colder.
See, I didn't I've never have known that about you.
Well, yeah, but also, why would you? That's such an.
We Eric,
I,
the amount of conversations that we have had, us and our high school friends have had over the years. I don't know. I guess that, like, are you a shower taker or a bath taker? Has never come up, but like I would have assumed it would have.
no, but who knows the bathing frequencies and habits of their friends? I don't think many people are like, oh yeah, Joe, he takes 2 showers a day because once when he wakes up and then once after work and he uses this brand of shampoo.
Okay, but we've argued about, oh, what way do you have the toilet paper roll on your toilet paper? Like we've had plenty of
I mean,
nonsense, like how do you
yes,
do this, how do you do that, kind of like fights.
sure. Arguments, debates, not fights.
Sometimes they're fights. But yeah,
Rarely.
no, I did.
But yeah,
Did you know what my shower to bath ratio is?
you take way more showers than baths. You
I
take
take
like 5 baths a year.
I take 0 baths a year. I take 0 baths since I was a child.
I was being generous.
Okay, no.
Because you used to take them as a child, and then you saw that one bit from iCarly that's like, having a bath is just sitting in your own dirty water, and you
See,
went, oh my gosh, it is.
see, I did think that the moment you said it earlier. But I no, I would have stopped taking them before, that episode probably came out when we were in like fifth grade, so I would have stopped. But yes, I literally did hear that in my head when you said it. That's so
Yeah,
funny.
no, I know. Um, but yeah, no, taking a bath when it's cold outside is nice, and then you get like a bath bomb or whatever. You make it a little thing. You stay in there for 2 hours watching anime.
Nice candle, maybe.
Yeah, maybe a nice candle. If you're bold, you'll bring in food. I haven't brought in food. I'm not that bold. I've brought in a drink, but but similar to the hot chocolate, I wouldn't say it's a tradition. I'm just like, oh, a bath would be nice. I'll take a bath.
I feel like if I lived alone and if I had one of those really big fancy bathtubs that you see in movies,
Mm.
then like, because like first of all, I in my current house I don't have a bathtub, I only have a shower. But like, yeah, if it's like a jacuzzi type thing, and you're like, it's not like, oh, I am going to go and do the necessary 15 to 20 minutes of being in the shower to clean my body for the day. And it's like, no, dude, I'm just gonna go hang out in my indoor jacuzzi. Then like that's legit, I guess.
Well, I mean, it's kind of the same. I mean, you don't have a bathtub, so rip. But like, like I very rarely bathe, like take a bath with the express purpose to clean myself. Sometimes I will clean myself because I'm in the bath. But if I'm like, oh, I need to just get myself clean, ready for the day, it's always a shower. But it's like, nah, let me relax or let me warm up. It's like, yeah, a nice bath. And you just vibe. Doesn't even need the jacuzzi burbers.
Oh,
Jets.
I need the Berbers, the jets. I think that having a jacuzzi jet shooting directly at my spinal cord would be very relaxing. You know what I
I
want,
mean,
Eric?
yeah.
I
What,
want to go on an inversion table.
what's that?
It's those imagine like a seesaw. So like you lie down and it's a table and it can flip almost all the way upside down and then almost all the way front ways, and it's meant for like stretching out your back and things like that.
Wild.
But yeah, I'm like, you know what would feel so good is probably just being upside down and stretching my spine out, but like the other way.
Being on what is a modernized version of a torture machine.
Yeah, but it's for stretches.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we do have another question from Sophie here, if you'd like to get to that.
Well, really quick, so do we both
Yep.
just not have traditions for
No.
the
I mean, I have
yeah,
Halloween traditions, but like that's yeah, it's October. It's like, oh, we got to go get pumpkins.
sure.
You know what's so weird? Okay, so like we were talking about diners before, right? Like when did
Yeah.
you learn that diners there's literally places in the country that don't have diners. Like it's such a New Jersey thing. Like when did
Mm,
you learn that?
gosh, I don't know.
I just kind
Probably
of
when I came to Jersey.
That's true. I mean, you were born here, but you didn't grow up here. I guess that makes sense. For me, it was like, what do you mean there's not a diner in every town that is that town's diner? Like, what are you talking about? There's a
Yeah.
minimum of one diner per town. What do you mean?
It truly a curse for the rest of the world that there are not more diners.
Yeah, and then we also live in like the ideal climate for growing pumpkins. So we're like one of the pumpkin capitals of the world, which is also something I didn't know.
Hmm.
I was like, yeah, everyone's got pumpkins. You watch some movies and it's Halloween, you got pumpkins. It's like, yeah, but we got many pumpkins. I'm like,
Hmm.
oh, that's cool.
Rock
So
on,
here's
rocker.
here's here's Sophie's question. At any time in your lives, have you had a positive impact on somebody but haven't been aware of it until they told you?
No. A very confident no. I have never been approached with someone that went, wow, you made my life better. Thanks for
Oh my
that.
god. I feel like I've had conversations where I tell people how much they mean to me. I'm like, hey, when you did this, that really meant a lot to me. Like, Eric, I don't think I've ever directly told you this, but when we were in high school and we used to go to Magic the Gathering tournaments, you remember those?
I do.
And like, it's not like we didn't all always go because it was like a 40-minute drive, which sucked on a weeknight, and none of us could drive yet. So, like, one of our parents would have to take us. And sometimes it would be me or you, or like some combination of me, you, our friend Christian, our friend George, our friend Chris, my brother, and like we could go on a group as big as six or a group as small as two, and we go and we play Magic. And whenever like the carpool included you, I don't know, you were like my safety dog person. What's that called? Comfort dog? What's the word I'm
Emotional
thinking of?
support dog?
Emotional support Eric. Because Magic tournaments are scary, especially when you're like 14 and everyone there is like men in their 25 who are stinky and spend lots of money on cards and you don't know what all the cards do. And I'm like, well, Eric's going, and he's less of a tryhard than the other people in our group because George is a really big tryhard for Magic, and then Christian just like has every single card in the game memorized and like knows all these weird facts and trivia that I don't. And so Eric, when you were going, I'm like, oh, me and him are on the same tier. We're on the same level where we play decks that we think are good, but that we're playing for fun. We want to make the best version of our deck, as opposed to being competitive.
Mm.
And so when you were going, I was much more like, yes, this is good. And I don't think I've ever told you that.
No, I don't think you have.
No, so like that's something that I feel like whenever as an adult now, whenever someone does something that like means a lot to me, I make sure to go out of my way and tell them that.
Hmm.
But with that
Hmm.
said, I do not believe I've ever had anybody tell me that about myself. I've had people say things to me at work where they're like, "Devon, like it's so funny how you always do this," and I'm like, "What do you mean? I have no idea what you're talking about. What do you mean I use the word perhaps in like every other sentence? I've never thought of this." And then other people are like, "Yeah, you do that a lot."
Hmm. Hmm.
They're like someone made a sign that we had to post in the kitchen for like new instructions on how to clean the popcorn kettle, and they're like, Devin, we know that you wrote it because you used words that only you use. And I'm like, no, that is so weird.
LOL.
It's not
That,
obvious.
that
It's not weird, but it's whatever.
sure.
But yeah, like I've had people on YouTube like leave comments and like, oh, even right now, right? Like I had a video go up at 11, which is when we started recording. And so, like, one of the comments is like, Gibby's videos are such a special way to spend my time. I have to carefully consider before each one if it's worth watching right now or should I savor it knowing there's a new video I haven't seen yet. And I'm like, that's so
That's pretty
weird.
sweet.
Like, no, okay, it's not weird in a bad way. You're right. It's very sweet because to me, it's just like I made a video yesterday because I had the day off and I published it at 11 and then I immediately didn't look at it and now we're just doing this. But it like meant so much for this person. One of the things that I valued a lot when I was in college is a YouTuber named Jax Films, who's very popular. Started a series called Yai, which stands for Yesterday I Asked You, which then PewDiePie would go on to copy with Last Week I Asked You, and then there's like all this stuff. And so what he was doing is every single day he'd put out like a 2 to 3 minute video, and he asks a question, and then people answer it in the comments, and then the next day he makes a video and like reading off those comments, and he asks new questions. And so there was a new video every day for like a long time. And I had so little of a functional schedule when I was in college. Like my freshman year of college was awful, 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 terrible. And kind of like what this commenter said, and then kind of like what we were just talking about, it's like every time Jack uploaded a Yai episode, I got a little dopamine hit. And it was the only dopamine I got whatsoever. And it happened once a day, meaning that I was basically living my day until the Yai episode came out. And then I'd be like, yes. And then I'd vibe for 2 minutes, and then I'd be down in the dumps until the next day, 24 hours later, when the next Yai would come out. So, like, I get it. But yeah, Sophie says that she's asking this question because she says, I was stood up on another date tonight. Lol.
No.
I got a notification that your podcast episode was released, and I was like, yay. Crying, smiling emoji face.
No. Well, it'll be some relatable topics, I guess. I'm sorry, Sophie.
Yeah, obviously, we read one of your emails many episodes ago going over like how men are intimidated by you, which is lame. You should find a man who appreciates you.
Yeah.
And I think talking about like the speed dating story now with Eric is like speed dating is not something a lot of people do. It's something everyone knows is a thing that exists, but it's not something people do. And I know a lot of people who are single and are like, I really wish I was in a relationship right now. And then they do nothing about it. Like, they don't go and meet people. They don't go speed dating. They might have a dating app installed, but, like, they do nothing about their circumstances. And I'm like, I'm so glad that, like, Eric, you went, even though I wasn't able to go. And I'm glad that me and you were going at the end of the month, because it's at least taking a proactive step. And even if it doesn't go well, even if you end up going on a date with the wrong girl and the movie, the bowling alley is closed, then, like, it's still a thing that you did. Like, Sophie, you're sad that you got stood up, which sucks. And, like, I can't even imagine how like, devastating. Brutal. Yeah, brutal. Like, it's just a terrible thing to do to a person. But, like, the fact that you have these stories where, like, where you're setting up these dates and you're going, it's like, there's a quote I like, which is, everyone who's, you might only go to the gym once a week and you might be really bad at it and it might make you feel like you're not making any progress, but you're infinitely far ahead of everybody who's still on the couch. Like, you're doing something, and that first something is the biggest and hardest hurdle to overcome. So, like, yeah, this really sucks, and I can't even imagine, and it sounds, like, emotionally devastating. But you're still doing it, and you're ahead of lots of people I know who aren't even making those steps. Sophie continues and says, remembering Eric's words the last time we spoke of this, he had me giggling and smiling back in my hotel room. I'm so thankful for that. Thank you, Eric. Also, Gibby, I'm not going to give up on love or anything else. Pray for me.
Yeah, you can do this one day. It'll all work out. It'll all be smooth sailing. as the romantic optimist that at least I am.
I was about to say, I
Uh,
disagree.
Listen, one day people will find their people, and it'll all be nice, and it'll be fine.
See,
This is what I need to tell myself as well.
yeah, you need to tell yourself that. Because I just don't think that things work like that, right? Like, real life isn't a movie where there's an end game that, like, oh, you're gonna find the person. You know, we're not Ted Mosby where we meet our wife and have kids, and like we How I Met Your Mother, right? Like, that's not how it
Oh,
works.
sure. But there's also a certain point of like, the mysterious ways that life works, and there's even a thing for like, um, even if I don't find a romantic partner from like trying to find one, I have deepened relationships with other people that I already knew. Like we just relate more and like do these other things, and I'm less like, wow, it would be okay if I never found anyone because I have such a strong network of other people in my life to support me as well. So
Yeah, there's a I'm gonna spoil a 30-year-old TV show, but are you familiar with the show Cheers?
I vaguely, I know it culturally what it is and stuff.
Right. Phenomenal show, 10 out of 10. Everybody should watch Cheers. So, you have the main character who for 11 seasons, 11, 12 seasons is like, a main sitcom character where he's dating people and it's not working out, or he's trying to get the cute girl and then it doesn't work out, or he's sleeping around but it's not fulfilling, right? Like, you got main character sitcom man energy.
Right.
And then the last scene of the show is you have all the main characters sitting in the bar and they're all having their drinks, and all of them have like lives. They're
Mm.
married or they have children or they have jobs, because the main character, his job is the bar. So he doesn't go anywhere and live a life and then come to the bar. The bar is his life. And he doesn't live, and take care of his mother, and he doesn't have a wife and he doesn't have kids. So his life is the bar, and the people in his life are the people sitting in front of him right at that moment. And his most recent, romantic interest has just left. And so now he is no one again. And he's sitting at the bar, and there's that cute moment of like, wow, this is what life really is about. It's these people in this place, right? And then the phone
Sure.
rings,
Mm.
and they don't pick it up because like they don't want to. But one of the characters is like, ah, that's probably my ma wondering where I am. She probably needs me to go home and make her dinner. And then one of them's like, oh, that's probably my ex-wife. She probably has to go tell me something about, our kid. And one of them goes, oh, that's probably my wife. And one of them goes, oh, that's probably my friend. I'm late for our dinner date or
And they
whatever.
all leave the bar.
And no one answers the phone, but they all assume it's their loved one calling them to go and do something that they have to do for life. And they all stand up and they all go home for the night. And the main character is just left standing alone there in the dark because no one would be calling him because everyone he knows was already in that room. And he has nothing else to go and do because all he has is the bar, and he has no family, and he has no, romantic partner. And
Mm.
then the show just ends.
Mm.
And they try to make it special because the one character's like, yeah, you don't have a wife and you probably never will, but you have this bar.
Lols.
And I'm like, well, hold on. Hold on. Because then you just have this scenario where, yeah, you have the bar until everybody goes home, and then you have nothing.
Yeah. I think, I don't know. I think that depiction is kind of accurate, but also kind of lame. Like, I don't know. Eventually, everyone will be left alone if we want to, like, get there.
No, I don't know. I don't agree with that.
Well, but just like, if this, what I'm getting from this last episode scene is like, oh, everyone else has a busy life and they all leave him. And those were his, like, close friends or whatever.
Hmm.
But, like, yeah, sure, you maybe shouldn't base all of your life decisions around your friends because you need to live your own life, but like that can be said for anyone. And at a certain point you'd have to be like, well, I have to make this decision, and do I base it off of my values and what I want to try to build for my life, or for these other reasons, or like the people I want to be with, or whatever. And
You
you
base it
gotta
off
live
of
your own
your
life.
no, you don't. That's horrendous. You base it off of your spouse and your children that you're responsible for.
No, but he doesn't have a spouse and child.
Yeah, but everyone else does.
Well, but if you're
That's the
not the
point.
person that does,
If my best friends, right? Like, let's say, we're all hanging out. We all see each other pretty often. We play Dungeons and Dragons basically every week. We go out and we play, card game tournaments, or we all meet up and play video games online, or we record this podcast or whatever. But if every single one of our friends, if one of our friends is like, oh, I need to move down to Tennessee because that's where my mom's retired, I need to go take care of her. And one of them's like, oh, my wife has a job out in Texas, so we're going to move out there to raise our kids, right? Those are legitimate reasons to just pack up and leave your entire life behind because you're doing it for your family. You're doing it for your wife, or your kids, or your parents. And then we're just left sitting here, and now we have nothing because our friends and those relationships that we built up, they've now left. Because even though we are important to them, we're not as important as their spouse, their children, and their parents. That just is, it's kind of like the most important thing is your family. And like friends can be like family, but friends aren't going to be family.
I mean, you can have a found family.
I kind of disagree.
But also, that's still that's still what I was saying though. Like we are just that like everyone has to be comfortable being alone on some level, because at some point everyone will be alone, probably.
I mean, you'll be alone, but not like, it doesn't mean that you'll live alone.
Yeah.
There's more multi-generational households in the
Well,
state of New
yes,
Jersey
that,
than like none. You're going to live with your
yes.
wife and have your kids and raise your kids, and then your kids are going to move out, and then you're going to die, and then your wife's going to move in with your kids. And like, that's how that works.
I guess, man. Also, just because of modern technologies and the internet, even if you move away to Texas, you could still be like, "Hey, man, want a game online, or have a call, or with our telephones, or."
Yeah, I don't know. It's just not the same. I don't know how this got so
It's not the
sad.
same, but
I don't know what's going on. You know what? I had this on my list of things to talk about, so let's just quickly transition into it.
Okay,
A new season of Futurama just ended.
okay,
I didn't know it started
okay. Me neither.
because it came out on Hulu, and like this is the second season since its revival on Hulu. And I watched the first season every week as it was coming out, and then this one ended, and I saw like an article about how it was over, and I'm like, I didn't even know it started. It's been going on for 10 weeks, and I've seen no one talk about it, and I haven't seen a single ad. Like, that's crazy that can just like slip by me. And so I was looking at it, and I'm like, oh, there was a whole season of Futurama. And like entire seasons of like Rick and Morty will pass, and I'll forget that show even exists. And I'll be like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm 2 seasons behind now. That's whatever. I'll watch that whenever I have time. But while I was looking into this, I saw that the second season of the revival of Frasier, the spin-off of
Mm.
Cheers, is about to come out. And I'm like, well, hold on. I heard a couple years ago that they were making a spin-off of Frasier. I didn't know that it had come out, let alone that the second season was about to start coming out. When did the first season come out? What are you talking about? I have seen no, like, and like I'm interested in that. I would literally go. I think it's on like Paramount Plus or something. Like I would buy Paramount Plus to watch the Frasier revival because, as I said, I'm a big friend. I'm a big fan of Cheers and Frasier. Um, but like I did like whoever's advertising this didn't do a good enough job that me, as someone who would have paid to go and watch it, didn't even know it existed. Like that's insane to me, and that's why streaming is bad because they don't advertise.
Well, it's not even just that as well, but like we don't have traditional cable TV anymore, right? You used to watch like 7 minutes of commercial in your episodes of whatever you actually wanted to watch. And now
Yeah,
you
but
aren't getting that direct advertisement. Now you have to rely on personalized ads and YouTube algorithms and what ads will be shown to you when it's all whatever you get.
yeah, and I'd think that those would be better. How if like on Twitter and YouTube, these things that are supposed to know me, even Google Ads like across the entire internet, like they're supposed to know what I like, and they didn't even tell me that this was happening. It's crazy. Like, what's the point?
In my personal experience, when I get ads from like YouTube or Twitch or whatever, it's always the same like 10 ads. Like it's some mobile game, or it's a car, or an insurance thing, and then it'll just be like games and Japanese weeb things because hello.
Well, yeah, because that's you. So where's my advertisement about the revival of a 20-year-old sitcom that I watch?
Well, you don't fit the demographic, but also those like all those things I listed, like none of those are actually. I think it's just a wide net. Like it, like here's the new big mobile game hit, and it's just 1,000 different ads about that one mobile game, and it's like the biggest one on the market, and it like I don't know, it's kind of personalized to me, but not really. I don't play mobile games or trucks. Trucks are dumb. Trucks are fine. There's a need, I guess, but
You just mean like car commercials,
yeah,
like don't
I
appeal to
I
you?
don't care how fast it can go from 0 to 60.
Hmm. Well, do you have anything else to say to round out this episode?
Round out this episode. No. If you everyone keep doing their best with their dating lives. Here's to you, kid.
I would just like to say that in life you never know how things are gonna go,
It's like a box of
and
chocolates.
and sometimes you gotta go where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came. Our struggles are all the same, so you gotta go where everybody knows your name. And that's the Cheers theme song. Good night, everybody.
Goodbye. Good luck.